The bridge of the horizon fell silent when the transmission arrived. Captain Jake Morrison had been reviewing star charts when his communications officer suddenly went pale. The message wasn't from Earth. It wasn't from any human colony. The signal came from somewhere deep in uncharted space, and it was addressed specifically to humanity. "Sir, you need to see this," the officer said, her hands shaking slightly as she routed the message to the main screen. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a being unlike anything humans had encountered before. It resembled a tower of living crystal, refracting light into countless rainbow patterns. When it spoke, the words came through perfectly translated into English. "Greetings, humanity. I am Chairman Vexlar of the Galactic Council. We have observed your recent achievement of faster-than-light travel. On behalf of the 847 civilized species of the known galaxy, we welcome you to the greater community." Jake leaned forward in his chair, his heart pounding. First contact. Actual first contact with alien intelligence. Not just one species, but hundreds of them. The message continued. "As is customary, we invite your leaders to send representatives to our headquarters on Zentara Prime. There, we will discuss the requirements for your species to join the Council as full members. We await your response." The transmission ended. For a moment, nobody on the bridge moved. Then Jake started laughing. Not from nervousness, but from pure joy. Humanity wasn't alone in the universe, after all. 3 weeks later, President Lisa Caldwell stood in the Oval Office, looking at the team she had assembled. Ben Hayes, a career diplomat who had negotiated peace treaties on 4 continents, adjusted his tie nervously. Next to him, Dr. Amy Porter clutched a data pad filled with everything humanity knew about alien biology, which wasn't much. "Remember," Lisa said, her voice calm but firm, "we're the newcomers here. They've been doing this for who knows how long. Be respectful. Be humble. And for heaven's sake, don't start an interstellar incident." Ben nodded. "We'll make you proud, Madam President." The journey to Zentara Prime took 6 days, even with humanity's new faster-than-light drives. When their ship, the Endeavour, finally dropped out of warp near the planet, the crew gasped collectively. The world below glowed with city lights that covered entire continents. Orbital stations the size of small moons dotted the space around it. And ships, thousands of ships, came and went in carefully orchestrated traffic patterns. "We're really the new kids here," Amy whispered, pressing her face against the viewport. The Endeavour was guided to a docking platform on one of the orbital stations. As Ben and Amy stepped through the airlock, they entered a world beyond imagination. The corridor stretched before them, impossibly wide, with beings of every shape and size moving about their business. Some walked on legs, some floated, some rolled. A few defied description entirely. Most of them glanced at the humans and then looked away quickly, but not before Ben caught their expressions. Pity. They looked at humans with pity. A small, hovering drone approached them. "Representatives of humanity, please follow me to the council chambers." They walked through halls that seemed designed to impress and intimidate. Massive statues of alien beings lined the walls. Screens displayed the achievements of various species. Worlds colonized. Threats defeated. Technologies invented. The message was clear. Humanity had a long way to go. The council chamber itself was enormous. Hundreds of seats arranged in ascending tiers, each occupied by a different species. At the center, on an elevated platform, sat Chairman Vexlar. Up close, he was even more impressive, easily 4 meters tall and glowing with inner light. "Humanity!" His voice echoed through the chamber. "We are pleased you accepted our invitation. Please, approach." Ben and Amy walked to the center of the room, very aware that hundreds of alien eyes watched their every move. Ben cleared his throat. "Chairman, on behalf of humanity, we're honored to be here." We look forward to learning from the Galactic Council and contributing what we can to the greater community. Vex-Lar made a sound that the translator rendered as a warm chuckle. Your enthusiasm is refreshing. However, you must understand that membership in the Council is not freely given. Every species must prove themselves capable of meeting certain standards. We understand, Amy said. What do we need to do? The chairman gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the air between them. The 3 mandates. All new species must fulfill these requirements before gaining full membership and all its benefits. The first mandate appeared on the screen. Establish peaceful colonies on at least 5 hostile worlds within 10 years. Ben's eyebrow twitched slightly. The second mandate followed. Demonstrate the ability to defend against Class 7 stellar threats. Amy coughed to cover what might have been a laugh. The third mandate completed the list. Contribute a unique resource or technology to the Galactic Commons. Chairman Vex-Lar folded what might have been hands, though they looked more like crystalline branches. We know these tasks seem daunting. Most species take 50 to 70 years to complete all 3 mandates. Some never do. But we have faith that humanity, given time and guidance from elder species, will eventually succeed. Technically say, all. One quote. Technically say, technically. The condescension in his tone was gentle, almost kind. He clearly meant to be encouraging. Around the chamber, other council members nodded or made their species equivalent gestures of agreement. They all looked at the humans with the same expression, pity, mixed with mild curiosity about how long it would take these primitives to even accomplish the first task. Ben looked at Amy. She looked back at him. They both struggled to keep their faces serious. Chairman, Ben said carefully, could we have some clarification on the first mandate? What exactly qualifies as a hostile world? Vex-Lar seemed pleased by the question. A world with environmental conditions that would kill most species within hours. High radiation, extreme temperatures, toxic atmospheres, crushing gravity. Any planet where establishing permanent habitation requires significant technological adaptation. I see, Ben said. He pulled out his own datapad and made a show of taking notes. And the Class 7 stellar threat. Could you define that for us? Asteroid impacts large enough to cause extinction events, nearby supernovas, solar flares of sufficient magnitude threats that could destroy all life on a planet, if not properly defended against. Right, of course. Ben wrote that down too. And for the unique contribution, would that be a physical resource? Or could it be knowledge, technology, cultural exchange? Any of those would be acceptable. Vex-Lar confirmed. We are primarily interested in what makes your species unique. What can humanity offer that no other species can? Ben nodded seriously. That's very helpful, thank you. If it's acceptable, we'd like to return to Earth and brief our government on these requirements. We'll need to organize our efforts. Of course, the chairman said warmly. Take all the time you need. As I said, we expect this process to take many decades. Some species require a century or more. There is no shame in proceeding slowly and carefully. As they left the council chambers, Amy waited until they were safely back on the Endeavor before she finally let herself laugh. Ben joined her, both of them leaning against the corridor wall. Did you see their faces? Amy gasped between laughs. They think they're giving us an impossible test. 5 hostile worlds in 10 years, Ben said, shaking his head. Amy, how many colonies did we establish last year alone? 14. And that's not counting the underwater settlements or the ones on Luna and Mars. Ben pulled out his communicator. I need to call the president. We're going to need to decide how gentle we want to be with our response. V. Dom. Ben pulled out his communicator. Why be gentle at all? Amy asked. Ben's grin widened. Because, Dr. Porter, these people have been running the galaxy for a long time. They're used to being the experts, the teachers, the wise elders. If we show them everything we can do all at once, it might be a bit much for them to handle. So we'll break it to them slowly? We'll break it to them slowly, Ben agreed. Besides, I want to see Chairman Vexillar's face when we file our first progress report. Something tells me this is going to be fun. 3 months had passed since humanity received the 3 mandates. In the Galactic Council chambers on Zentara Prime, Chairman Vexillar was reviewing reports from various species when his assistant interrupted him. Chairman, humanity has requested an audience. Vexillar looked up from his work, confused. Already? We only gave them the mandates 3 months ago. Surely they haven't run into problems this quickly? They say they wish to file a progress report. The chairman made a sound of sympathy. Poor things. They probably want to tell us about their plans. Perhaps ask for advice on how to begin. Very well. Schedule them for tomorrow. And make sure we have representatives from species experienced in hostile world colonization. The humans will need mentors. The next day, the council chamber was less crowded than during humanity's first visit. This was meant to be a simple check-in, after all. Only about 50 council members had bothered to attend. Most of them wore expressions of kindly patience as Ambassador Kate Sullivan walked to the center of the chamber. Kate was a tall woman with steel-gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had spent the last 3 months reviewing everything humanity knew about the Galactic Council, and she had learned something interesting. Every single species had taken at least 40 years to complete the first mandate. The record holder, a species called the Drin, had managed it in 37 years, and were still celebrated for that achievement. Chairman Vexillar, honored council members, Kate said with a slight smile. Thank you for seeing us on such short notice. I know it's early in the process, but Earth's government asked me to provide an update on our progress with the 3 mandates. Of course, Ambassador, Vexillar said warmly. Please, share your plans with us. We're here to help guide you. Actually, sir, I'm not here to discuss plans. I'm here to report completion of the first mandate. The chamber fell absolutely silent. A council member from the Ventari species, a being that breathed methane and looked like a floating jellyfish, spoke up. I apologize, Ambassador, but there must be a translation error. Did you say completion? Yes, completion, Kate confirmed. She pulled out a small device and activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. As requested, humanity has established peaceful colonies on at least 5 hostile worlds within the given time frame. In fact, we've established 17. The display showed a list of planets with accompanying data. Kate walked around the hologram, pointing to each world as she described it. Colony Alpha is on a world we call Vulcan's Forge. Surface temperature averages 400 degrees Celsius. The atmosphere is mostly sulfur dioxide. Radiation levels would kill most species within an hour. We have 3,000 colonists living there, mining rare metals and studying the planet's unique geological activity. A council member stood up abruptly. That's impossible. How are they surviving? Domed habitats with active cooling systems, Kate said simply. The engineering was tricky, but nothing we couldn't handle. Moving on, Colony Beta is on an ice world. Average temperature is minus 190 degrees. Constant blizzards, nitrogen snow. We have 5,000 people there, including families. Children, actually. The schools just opened last month. She moved to the next display. Colony Gamma is particularly interesting. It's a water world with crushing pressure at all depths. We've built underwater cities at various levels. The deepest one is at 8,000 meters down. The pressure there is, well, it's quite substantial. But the bioluminescent life forms are beautiful, so it's a popular tourist destination. Chairman Vexillar leaned forward, his crystalline body refracting light in agitated patterns. Ambassador Sullivan, forgive me, but this seems highly irregular. How did humanity manage this so quickly? Kate's smile widened slightly. That's an excellent question, Chairman. The truth is, the first mandate wasn't particularly difficult for us. You see, Earth itself is classified as a Class 12 hostile world by galactic standards. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Kate waited for them to quiet down before continuing. Earth has extreme temperature variations from -90 to +58 Celsius, depending on location and season. We have regular hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions. Our atmosphere has a dangerously high oxygen content. Our gravity is 0.8 standard galactic. We have multiple species of predators that evolved specifically to hunt humans. And that's not even mentioning our sun's radiation output. She pulled up a new image, Earth from space, blue and white, and deceptively peaceful. Humanity didn't evolve on a garden world, Chairman. We evolved on a death world. We've been colonizing hostile environments since before we even left our planet. We built cities in deserts, in frozen tundra, on earthquake fault lines, below sea level in hurricane zones. We've been living in space stations for over 200 years. We have permanent settlements on our moon and our neighboring planet, both of which are far more hostile than several of the worlds on this list. Amy Porter stood beside Kate, pulling up additional data. From our perspective, the challenge wasn't the hostile environments. The challenge was finding planets that were only hostile enough to meet the mandate requirements without being actually dangerous. We specifically avoided colonizing anything we considered genuinely threatening. What would you consider genuinely threatening? Asked a council member, almost afraid to hear the answer. Oh, you know, worlds with active supervolcanoes that erupt every few decades, planets in unstable orbits around binary stars, places with native life forms that can actually harm humans despite our immune systems. That sort of thing. Kate pulled up another display. I should also mention that all 17 colonies are self-sufficient. They're not just research outposts. These are permanent settlements with families, schools, hospitals, farms, everything needed for long-term habitation. Several of them are already expanding and planning daughter colonies. She paused, looking around the chamber. Oh. And before I forget, we have video feeds from each colony, if you'd like to verify our claims. Would you like to see them? Vex Lar, who seemed to have lost the ability to speak, simply nodded. The holographic display shifted to show live video from Vulcan's forge. Inside, a large domed structure, humans walked around in light clothing, going about daily business. In the background, through the transparent dome walls, a river of lava flowed past. Two children ran across the screen, laughing, while their mother called after them to be careful. As you can see, Kate narrated, life is quite normal for our colonists. The dome maintains Earth-standard conditions. The children there are actually third-generation colonists. Their grandparents were among the first to arrive. The video switched to the ice world. A teenager was giving a tour to the camera, excitedly showing off the observation deck, where they could watch the nitrogen snowfalls. It's really pretty, the girl was saying. And yesterday we saw a methane geyser. That's my daughter, Amy said proudly. She loves it there. The Ventari delegate, the one who breathed methane, suddenly made a gasping sound. That child is in an environment that would kill my species in seconds, and she's complaining that her homeworld is too warm? Well, yes, Amy said. Different species adapt to different conditions. Earth's conditions just happen to be more extreme than most. The final video showed the underwater colony. Humans swam through corridors built into the ocean floor, moving between buildings that withstood pressure that would crush a spaceship. A scientist was giving a presentation about local wildlife, while a massive creature that looked like a cross between a whale and a squid drifted past the window behind him. We actually get along quite well with the local fauna, the scientist in the video was saying. They're curious about us, and we're studying their communication patterns. We think they might be sentient. Kate closed the display and turned back to the council. So, to summarize, the first mandate is complete. All 17 colonies are established, peaceful, and thriving. I have the full documentation here if you'd like to review it. She held up a data chip. Nobody moved to take it. I realize this is faster than usual, Kate continued, her tone sympathetic. We understand that most species take much longer to accomplish this task, but we wanted to move forward efficiently. Time is valuable. After all, Chairman Vexlar finally found his voice. Ambassador Sullivan, when you say Earth is a Class 12, hostile world, are you certain of that classification? Oh yes, Kate said. We actually checked using the standard Galactic measurement system. Earth scores Class 12 on the habitability scale. We would have scored higher, but we've gotten quite good at weather prediction and disaster preparation, which apparently lowers the rating. A council member from a species that looked like a large, furry caterpillar raised one of its many limbs. If Earth is so dangerous, how did your species survive long enough to develop civilization? Amy answered this time. Adaptation and stubbornness. Mostly. Humans are persistence hunters by evolution. We're not the fastest or the strongest, but we don't give up. When our environment tried to kill us, we learned to kill it back. When that didn't work, we learned to survive anyway. When we couldn't survive, we learned to change the environment. We've been doing it for about 300,000 years now. And you're only just now reaching the stars? Another council member asked. We had some setbacks, Kate admitted. Several ice ages, a few supervolcano eruptions, countless wars among ourselves. But we got there eventually. Vexlar slumped in his seat, a gesture of defeat that transcended species. I see. And I suppose you're already working on the second mandate, as well? Kate's smile became almost mischievous. Actually, Chairman, we were hoping to schedule a demonstration of that one soon. Would next week work for everyone? The orbital platform above Zentara Prime had never seen such a crowd. When word spread that humanity was attempting the second mandate only 1 week after completing the first, council members came from across the galaxy to witness what was surely going to be a spectacular failure. Commander Matt Rivers stood on the bridge of the human ship Defiance, watching the assembled alien vessels through his viewport. There had to be at least 300 ships out there, all keeping a safe distance from the designated testing zone. He could practically feel their skepticism from here. Sir, his weapons officer said, the council is hailing us. They're ready to begin whenever we are. Put them through, Matt said, settling into his command chair. Chairman Vexlar's image appeared on the screen, and Matt noticed the alien leader looked tired. The past week had apparently been stressful for him. Commander Rivers, Vexlar said, we have prepared the standard test for the second mandate. You will face a simulated Class 7 stellar threat, specifically an asteroid swarm that, if left unchecked, would impact an inhabited planet and cause an extinction-level event. You will have 6 hours to demonstrate your defensive capabilities. Understood, Chairman, Matt replied. He hesitated, then added, if I may ask, what's the usual method for dealing with this scenario? A council member who resembled a tall, thin bird answered, most species use gravitational tugs to slowly alter the asteroid's trajectory. The process typically takes several months of sustained effort. We are, of course, accelerating the simulation for testing purposes. Matt nodded slowly. I see. And what if we wanted to make the test more realistic? Well, the council members exchanged confused glances. Vexlar spoke carefully. Commander, I assure you, this test is quite sufficient. Many species fail it on their first attempt. There's no shame in, with respect, Chairman, I wasn't asking to make it easier. I was asking if we could make it harder. Silence. Complete. Total silence across all communication channels. Finally, a gruff voice came through. It belonged to Commander Thelcora of the Kryn Empire, a species known for their military prowess. Explain yourself, human. Matt leaned back in his chair. Well, the thing is, Class 7 threats are what we consider routine. Earth faces them fairly regularly. Rogue asteroids, solar flares, that kind of thing. We've been defending against them for a couple hundred years now. If the Council wants to actually test our capabilities, we'd need something more challenging. More challenging than an extinction-level event? Thelcora sounded incredulous. If you don't mind, sir, yes. Could we perhaps add some Class 8 or Class 9 elements to the scenario, just to make it interesting? After a long pause and what sounded like a lot of frantic discussion on the Council's end, Vex'Lar spoke again. Commander Rivers, are you certain about this request? Absolutely, Chairman. Very well. We will. Enhance the simulation. Please stand by. The holographic display updated, showing the new threat scenario. What had been a standard asteroid swarm was now accompanied by simulated solar flare radiation, debris from a destroyed moon, and several large comets with unpredictable trajectories. In the observation ships, Council members watched in amazement, and several in horror, as the human vessel moved toward the simulated threats. The Defiance was smaller than most military ships in the Galactic fleet, sleek and dark. It didn't look particularly impressive. That changed the moment it began to act. Engaging defense grid, Matt announced calmly. The first thing the observers noticed was speed. The Defiance moved faster than should be possible for a ship its size, positioning itself between the threats and the imaginary planet they were protecting. Then the weapons activated. Kinetic bombardment platforms deployed from the Defiance's sides, launching projectiles at velocities that made several Council members' sensors malfunction. The projectiles hit the largest asteroids with such force that they simply disintegrated into dust. What are those weapons? Someone asked over the open channel. Railguns. Matt replied casually. We accelerate tungsten rounds to about 5% of light speed. Simple physics. Really. Mass times velocity equals impact force. Very effective against solid targets. The smaller asteroids were handled differently. Beams of concentrated light lanced out from the Defiance, slicing through rock like butter. And those? Thelcora demanded. Nuclear-pumped lasers, Matt said. Old technology, but reliable. We've been using them since the 22nd century. The solar flare radiation was neutralized by some kind of electromagnetic field that the Council's scientists immediately began trying to analyze. The comets were intercepted by missiles that moved impossibly fast. Commander, Vex'Lar said weakly, what are those missiles? Matt glanced at his tactical display. Those? Antimatter warheads. Each one has about half a gram of antimatter. When they hit, matter and antimatter annihilate each other, releasing energy according to Einstein's equation. Very clean, very efficient. Antimatter? A Council member shrieked. Weaponized antimatter? That's purely theoretical. Not anymore. Matt said cheerfully. The entire simulated threat field was cleared in 4 minutes and 17 seconds. The Defiance returned to its starting position, not even showing scorch marks from the engagement. Matt opened a channel to the Council. Test complete, Chairman. All threats neutralized. The imaginary planet is safe. Nobody responded for a long moment. Then Thelcora spoke, and for the first time, the Kryn commander sounded uncertain. Commander Rivers, why does your species possess such devastating weapons? This was the question Matt had been expecting. He took a deep breath and answered honestly. Because Earth tried to kill us for 300,000 years, Commander. We faced ice ages that covered half our planet in glaciers, supervolcanoes that blocked out the sun and nearly ended our species, asteroid impacts, plagues, droughts, floods. Our planet threw everything it had at us, and we survived. He pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's history. Then we nearly finished the job ourselves. We developed nuclear weapons and almost destroyed our own civilization in the 21st century. We came so close to extinction that it terrified us. So when we finally achieved peace, we made a decision. Never again. We would never be that vulnerable again. The display showed Earth's defensive grid orbital platforms, early warning systems, and response teams positioned around the planet and throughout the solar system. That's why we have these weapons, Matt continued. Not to attack anyone, but to protect ourselves. Earth taught us that the universe is dangerous, and the only way to survive is to be ready for anything. Amy Porter's voice came through on a secondary channel. She was aboard one of the Council observation ships. I'd like to add some context, if I may. Please, Doctor. Vexlar said. Humanity's homeworld has experienced 5 major mass extinction events in its history. Events so catastrophic that over 70% of all life on the planet died. Humans evolved after the most recent one, which was caused by an asteroid impact. We literally evolved in the shadow of apocalypse. She pulled up geological data. Earth has supervolcanoes that could erupt at any time. We have an asteroid belt in our solar system that occasionally sends rocks our way. Our moon is slowly drifting away from us, which will eventually destabilize our climate. Our sun will one day expand and consume our planet entirely. We know we're living on borrowed time, Amy said quietly. So we prepare. We watch the skies. We track every rock, bigger than a house that comes anywhere near our planet. We have deflection systems, destruction systems, evacuation plans. We hope we never need them, but we're ready if we do. A new voice joined the conversation, a young analyst named Zeexthon, who had been studying humanity since their arrival. I've been researching human history and culture. I found something interesting. Humans have a saying: hope for the best, prepare for the worst. This philosophy permeates everything they do. That's true, Matt confirmed. We're optimists at heart. We believe in a better future. But we're also realists. We know bad things can happen, so we prepare for them. It's kept us alive this long. Thelcora spoke again, and his tone had changed from skeptical to respectful. Commander, you said you consider Class 7 threats routine. What class of threat does your planetary defense grid actually handle? Matt consulted with his crew before answering. We're currently rated for Class 12 threats, sir. We could probably manage a Class 13 if we had to, though that would be pushing it. The channel erupted in shocked exclamations. Class 12 threats included things like nearby supernovas and gamma-ray bursts events that could sterilize entire solar systems. You're prepared to defend against a supernova? Someone asked in disbelief. Well, we couldn't stop it, Matt admitted. But we could detect it early enough to evacuate our solar system. We have deep space observation posts that monitor stellar activity within 50 light-years. If we saw a star going unstable, we'd have time to move our population to safer worlds. You would evacuate your entire species? Vexlar asked. If necessary, yes. We've done the math and run the simulations. It would take about 15 years to evacuate all of Earth. But we could do it. We'd rather not. Obviously, we like our planet, but survival comes first. Kate Sullivan, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. I think what the Council needs to understand is that humans don't think of defense as optional. It's fundamental to who we are. We're a species that looked at an uncaring universe and said, "You can't kill us, we won't let you." She pulled up one more image, the pale blue dot of Earth hanging in the blackness of space. That's our home. That's where everyone we've ever loved has lived and died. That's where all human art, music, literature, and history happened. And we will protect it with everything we have, against any threat, no matter how impossible it seems. We're not warriors by choice, Kate continued. We're survivors by necessity. But we've gotten very, very good at surviving. Chairman Vexlar sat in silence for a long time. Finally, he spoke, his voice carrying a weight that hadn't been there before. Commander Rivers, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I officially certify that humanity has completed the second mandate. Your defensive capabilities far exceed the requirement. Thank you, Chairman, Matt said. Now, Vexlar continued, and he sounded almost afraid to ask. About the third mandate. The Galactic Council Trade and Technology Center was packed beyond capacity. Word of humanity's previous demonstrations had spread across the galaxy, and representatives from over 600 species crowded into the chamber. They came to witness what unique contribution this terrifying new species could possibly offer. Kate Sullivan stood at the center podium, looking remarkably calm for someone who had just shocked the galactic community twice in 2 weeks. Beside her stood Dr. Ryan Cooper, a physicist who looked young enough to be a graduate student but held 3 doctorate degrees and had revolutionized human understanding of faster-than-light travel. Chairman Vexlar called the session to order. The murmuring crowd fell silent. "Ambassador Sullivan," the chairman said, "the Council is eager to hear about humanity's proposed contribution to the Galactic Commons. Before you begin, I must ask, are you certain you wish to proceed with this so quickly? You've already exceeded all expectations. Taking time to carefully consider what to offer would be perfectly acceptable." Kate smiled. "We appreciate your concern, Chairman, but we're ready. However, before we make our offer, I'd like to ask the Council a question. What would you say is the greatest challenge currently facing the galactic community?" The chamber erupted in discussion. Dozens of voices called out different answers. Resource shortages, political disputes, exploration limitations. Finally, Vexlar raised a crystalline appendage for silence. "If the Council had to choose one issue," he said slowly, "it would be the decay." Kate nodded. "That's what we thought. Could you explain the decay for the record?" A council member from the Vex species, an ancient race that had been part of the galactic community for over 10,000 years, stood to speak. Councillor Mirachelle looked like a being made of flowing silver liquid, constantly shifting and reforming. "The decay," Mirachelle said in a voice like wind chimes, "is a phenomenon we first noticed approximately 800 years ago. Our jumpgate network, which has connected the galaxy for millennia, began to fail. Gates that once allowed instant travel between star systems started malfunctioning. Some stopped working entirely." Another council member continued. "At first, we thought it was simple mechanical failure. We rebuilt the gates. But the problems persisted. Whatever causes the decay seems to affect the fundamental dimension that jumpgate technology uses. We've lost contact with 17% of our colonies. Entire regions of space are becoming isolated. We've tried everything," Thelcora added, frustration clear in his voice. "New gate designs, different power sources, alternate routes. Nothing works. The decay spreads slowly but inevitably. Our scientists estimate that in another 5,000 years, the entire jumpgate network will be unusable." Kate looked at Ryan, who stepped forward with barely contained excitement. "We read about the decay in the Council's public databases," Ryan said. "It's a fascinating problem. We spent the last 3 months analyzing it. And," Vexlar leaned forward, "and we think we can help," Ryan said. "But first, I need to explain something about human faster-than-light travel. Our ships don't use jump gates. We never did. We developed an entirely different method." He activated a holographic display showing the equations that governed human FTL drives. Council scientists immediately began studying them, and gasps of recognition rippled through the crowd. "This is Alcubierre theory," one of them exclaimed. "We studied this centuries ago, but determined it was impossible to implement." "It was impossible," Ryan agreed, "with the energy requirements as originally calculated. But humans are stubborn. We don't like being told something is impossible. So we kept working on it. We found ways to reduce the energy needed by 99%. We discovered exotic matter could be created artificially in small quantities. We solved the horizon problem with a clever application of quantum field manipulation." He pulled up a video of a human ship entering faster-than-light travel. Unlike jump gates, which opened portals between fixed points, the human ship seemed to fold space around itself and simply moved through normal space at impossible speeds. "The advantage of our method," Ryan explained, "is that we don't punch through to another dimension. We stay in normal space the entire time. We just manipulate space-time around the ship to allow faster-than-light movement without violating relativity. And the decay doesn't affect you, Mirachelle said, understanding dawning in her voice. Exactly. Whatever is causing jump gates to fail doesn't touch our drive systems because we're not using the same dimensional pathway. We've been traveling across the galaxy for months now, and we haven't experienced any of the degradation you describe. The implications hit the Council like a shockwave. A technology that bypassed the decay entirely. A way to reconnect isolated colonies. A method of travel that didn't depend on vulnerable infrastructure. This is remarkable, Vexlar said. But surely the technology is too complex to share easily. The mathematics alone. That's actually the interesting part. Ryan interrupted gently. The math is complex. Yes. But it's based on principles that most species already understand. Relativity, quantum mechanics, field theory, these are universal constants. Any species advanced enough for space travel already has the foundational knowledge needed to understand our drives. He pulled up a new display. We've prepared a complete technical package. Full schematics, manufacturing processes, training programs, everything. We're offering to share it freely with the entire Galactic Council. The chamber fell absolutely silent. Freely? Someone finally asked. You're not asking for payment? Trade agreements? Exclusive rights? Kate stepped forward. No. We're offering it as our contribution to the Galactic Commons, as requested by the third mandate. But there's more. She gestured to Ryan, who continued. We're also offering to send human engineers to help retrofit existing ships. The conversion process isn't terribly difficult. Most ships can be upgraded within a few weeks. We've already begun training retrofit specialists. We can have teams deployed across the galaxy within months. Why? The question came from Thelcora, and it carried genuine confusion. Why give away such valuable technology? You could demand enormous concessions. You could make your species wealthy beyond measure. Amy Porter, who had been standing quietly to the side, chose this moment to speak. Because that's not how humans think about knowledge, she said. We have a saying on Earth. A rising tide lifts all boats. When one human makes a discovery, we share it. Other humans build on it. They make new discoveries, and we all benefit. She pulled up an image showing Earth's history of scientific advancement. Every human achievement stands on the shoulders of previous achievements. We didn't invent faster-than-light travel alone. We built on Einstein's work, and Alcubierre's theoretical papers, and the contributions of thousands of scientists over hundreds of years. Most of those people are long dead, but their knowledge lives on because they shared it. Human culture values cooperation, Amy continued. Yes. We're competitive. We have rivalries and arguments and disagreements. But when it really matters, we work together. Because we learned a long time ago that we're stronger together than apart. Ben Hayes, who had been observing the proceedings, added his perspective. There's also a practical element. The decay is isolating colonies and cutting off trade routes. That makes the galaxy less stable. Less stable means more conflict. More conflict means less prosperity for everyone, including humanity. By sharing this technology, we're not being purely altruistic. We're investing in a more connected, peaceful galaxy. That benefits us too. Quote. Mirachelle flowed forward, her silver form rippling with emotion. In 10,000 years as part of this council, I have never seen a species offer such a gift freely. I must ask, Ambassador Sullivan, what truly makes humanity so different? What shaped your species to think this way? Kate looked at her team, then back at the ancient counselor. Dr. Porter, would you like to take this one? Amy stepped up to the main display and pulled up a rotating image of Earth. Look at our planet, she said softly. It's beautiful, isn't it? But it's also deadly. We've already told you about the extinction events, the supervolcanoes, the asteroid impacts. But there's something we haven't mentioned yet. Quote, we haven't mentioned. She zoomed in to show various regions. Humanity didn't evolve as a single, unified species in one location. We spread out across our entire planet. Different groups adapted to different environments: jungles, deserts, frozen tundras, mountains, islands. We developed different languages, cultures, technologies, all in isolation from each other. For most of our history, Amy continued, these different human groups competed with each other. We fought wars. We built empires. We did terrible things to each other. Our history is soaked in blood. The council members shifted uncomfortably, but Amy pressed on. But here's what makes us different. We eventually learned from those mistakes. We realized that fighting each other was making us all weaker. We had the weapons to destroy ourselves completely, and we came very, very close to using them. But at the last moment, we chose cooperation instead. She pulled up images of Earth's united government. It took us thousands of years, but we finally achieved something we'd been trying to do since we first looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone. We became one species, one people, working toward common goals. One. The thing is, Amy said, we remember how hard it was. We remember the cost of division and conflict. We still carry the scars, so when we look at the Galactic Council, we see the same potential. Hundreds of species, all with unique perspectives and abilities. You could waste your time competing and fighting, or you could work together and achieve incredible things, Ryan added. And from a scientific perspective, diversity is strength. Every species thinks differently because they evolved under different conditions. The problem we can't solve might be trivial to someone with a different perspective. Humans value that diversity because it makes us all smarter. Kate brought them back to the main point. So, to answer your question, Counselor Mirachelle, what makes humanity different is that we're not different at all. We're survivors, like every other species. We're competitive, like every other species. We're curious, innovative, and sometimes foolish, just like everyone else. The only real difference, Kate said, is that we survived a death world that forced us to become adaptable, and we nearly destroyed ourselves in our adolescence, which taught us the value of cooperation. Those two experiences shaped us into who we are today. A species that believes our survival depends on everyone's survival. Chairman Vexlar sat in silence, his crystalline body dim with thought. Finally, he spoke. Ambassador Sullivan, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I accept your contribution. More than that, I thank you. Your gift to the galactic community cannot be measured in standard terms. You offer not just technology, but hope. He paused, then continued with what sounded like difficulty. I must also offer an apology. The 3 mandates were never meant to be completed quickly. They were designed to keep new species subordinate, dependent on the Council's guidance for decades or even centuries. We told ourselves it was for everyone's good. That new species needed time to mature. But in truth, it was about maintaining power structures. The admission sent shockwaves through the chamber. Several council members looked uncomfortable, but none disagreed. You saw through our test immediately, didn't you? Vexlar asked. Kate nodded. We suspected, but we understood why. You've been running the galaxy for a long time. It makes sense that you'd be cautious about newcomers. So we decided to show you who we are through our actions rather than our words. And you've shown us quite clearly, Vexlar said with what might have been a laugh. Humanity, I hereby grant you full membership in the Galactic Council. All rights, all privileges, all responsibilities. Welcome to the community. The chamber erupted in applause, whistles, chimes, and 100 other sounds of celebration across hundreds of species. But Kate held up a hand. Thank you, Chairman. We're honored. But I have one request. Name it. The Council needs reform, not because it's bad, but because it could be better. Let's work together to make this a true alliance of equals, where every species has a voice and knowledge flows freely. Vexlar looked around the chamber, at the assembled representatives. Slowly, one by one, they began to nod. Agreed, the chairman said. Let us begin. 6 months had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. The galaxy was changing. And nowhere was that more evident than in the quiet meeting room on Zentara Prime, where Chairman Vexlar sat across from Ambassador Kate Sullivan, sharing what humans called tea, and what Vexlar's species considered a fascinating chemical experiment. I owe you another apology, Vexlar said, his crystalline form pulsing with a color that Kate had learned meant embarrassment. When we first met, I thought humanity would need our guidance for decades. I treated you like children. Kate sipped her tea and smiled. We noticed. But honestly, we understood. You'd been running things for a long time. Every new species you'd encountered needed that guidance. We were the exception, not the rule. How did you know? Vexlar asked. How did you see through the mandates so quickly? Because humans have done the same thing, Kate admitted. Throughout our history, more advanced civilizations would encounter less advanced ones and assume they needed to be led, managed, controlled. Sometimes, it was well-intentioned. Sometimes it wasn't. Either way, it rarely ended well. She set down her cup. When we saw your 3 mandates, we recognized the pattern. Tests designed to keep us dependent. So we decided to respond not with anger or resentment, but with amusement. We'd show you what we could do and let you draw your own conclusions. And you've certainly shown us, Vexlar said, with what sounded like a laugh. The Council will never be the same. That much was true. Across the galaxy, changes were happening at a pace that astounded longtime Council members. On the frontier colony world of Kriegstar, human engineer Sam Peterson worked alongside a team of Quilix technicians, installing humanity's warp drive technology into their colony transport ship. The Quilix were a cautious species, slow to trust, but Sam's patient teaching style had won them over. Okay. Now carefully align the field emitters, Sam instructed, watching as delicate Quilix manipulator arms positioned the components with precision that would have made a human jeweler jealous. One of the Quilix workers, whose name Sam had learned to pronounce as click whistle hum, paused in his work. Sam, may I ask you something? Of course. Why are you helping us? Your species could have kept this technology secret. You could have charged us enormous fees for the retrofits. Instead, you teach us to do it ourselves, for free. Sam wiped oil from his hands and sat down next to click, whistle, hum. Because that's not how knowledge works. Not to humans, anyway. See, every piece of technology I'm showing you today, I learned from someone else. And they learned it from someone before them. Knowledge isn't something you hoard. It's something you share. But you could profit from it, click, whistle, hum insisted. Maybe for a little while, Sam agreed. But then what? In the long run, we all benefit more if everyone has access to good technology. Your colony will be safer, able to evacuate quickly if there's an emergency. You'll be able to trade more easily. And maybe someday, you'll figure out an improvement to the design and share it with us. That's how progress works together. Click, whistle, hum made a humming sound that meant contemplation. Humans are strange, but I think I'm beginning to understand. Halfway across the galaxy, Commander Matt Rivers sat in the command center of a joint defense station, monitoring space traffic alongside Commander Thelcora of the Kryn Empire. The Kryn were famous warriors, proud and fierce, and Matt had been surprised when Thelcora requested to work with human defense forces. Contact on long-range sensors, the Kryn officer announced. Distress signal from a civilian transport. Matt checked his screens. I see it. Looks like their engine failed. They're drifting toward that asteroid field. They won't survive impact, Thelcora observed. Nearest Council rescue ship is 4 hours away. Then we go, Matt said, already plotting a course. We can be there in 20 minutes. The human ship launched immediately, with Thelcora observing from his command throne. Matt's crew worked with practiced efficiency, reaching the stranded transport before it could crash and towing it to safety. As they guided the grateful civilians to the nearest station, Thelcora spoke. Your crew didn't hesitate. You risked your ship for strangers from a species you'd never encountered before. Well, they needed help, Matt said simply. That's what neighbors do. The Kryn would have gone too, Thelcora said. But we would have demanded payment, or expected gratitude and loyalty. You expect nothing. Matt shrugged. We expect that if we're ever the ones in trouble, someone will help us too. That's how communities work. Everyone takes care of everyone else. Thelcora was silent for a long moment. The Kryn have been warriors for 10,000 years. We conquered 17 worlds before joining the Council. We thought strength meant dominating others. He gestured at the rescued transport. But watching humans, I'm learning that true strength might be something else entirely. Strength is protecting people, Matt said. Doesn't matter if they're your people or not. People are people. On Earth, President Lisa Caldwell met with representatives from a dozen species who had come to learn about human government and culture. The conference room in Geneva overlooked the mountains, and several of the aliens seemed mesmerized by the view. Your planet really is a death world, one of them said, watching clouds roll over the peaks. I can feel the gravity pulling at my bones. The oxygen makes me dizzy. And yet you call it home. It's the only home we've ever known, Lisa said. Until recently, anyway. But yes, by galactic standards, Earth is harsh. It made us tough. But it also made us appreciate beauty. Those mountains tried to kill our ancestors with avalanches and altitude sickness. But they're still beautiful. End quote. She pulled up a presentation. You came here to learn about how humanity achieved global unity. The truth is, it wasn't easy. It took us thousands of years of war and conflict. We almost destroyed ourselves several times. But we learned something important. We learned that our differences were less important than our similarities. How did you overcome those differences? Asked a representative from a species currently struggling with internal conflict. We started by talking, Lisa said. Really talking. Not just negotiating positions, but trying to understand each other's perspectives. We found common ground. We discovered that despite different cultures and languages, we all wanted the same basic things. Safety for our families, opportunities for our children, the freedom to live our lives in peace. She showed images of Earth's unified government forming. It took generations. We had setbacks, but we kept trying, because the alternative was extinction. And eventually, we realized something beautiful, that our diversity made us stronger. Different perspectives led to better solutions. Different cultures offered different wisdom. We stopped trying to make everyone the same and started celebrating our differences while working toward common goals. One of the visiting diplomats made a gesture of frustration. But how do you get people to trust each other after centuries of conflict? Trusting, Lisa smiled sadly. You start small. One conversation at a time. One shared project. One moment of cooperation. Trust builds slowly. But it does build. And it helps to have a common threat or challenge that reminds everyone they're stronger together. Meanwhile, in a laboratory orbiting Jupiter, Dr. Amy Porter worked with a team of alien biologists studying Earth's extreme life forms. They were examining bacteria that lived in volcanic vents, organisms that thrived in radiation that would kill most galactic species. This is impossible, one of the scientists kept saying. Life shouldn't exist in these conditions. And yet here it is, Amy said cheerfully. Life finds a way. Earth taught us that. Life adapts, evolves, persists. These bacteria have turned deadly radiation into an energy source. Other organisms we've found can survive the vacuum of space or hibernate for centuries. What does this tell us? Asked another researcher. It tells us that life is more resilient than we think, Amy said. It tells us that what seems impossible might just need a different approach. And it tells us that diversity, biological, cultural, intellectual, is the key to survival. These bacteria survived because they adapted in ways that seem crazy to us. But those crazy adaptations work. She gestured at the assembled alien scientists. Same with all of us. Every species here evolved under different conditions. We all think differently, solve problems differently. That's not a weakness, it's our greatest strength. Back on Zentara Prime, young analyst Zixthon had just published his comprehensive study of humanity. The report had become required reading for every council member and diplomat. He stood before a classroom of students from various species, teaching them about the newcomers who had changed everything. The most important thing to understand about humans, Zixthon explained, is that they're not special. They don't have unique abilities. They're not inherently smarter or stronger than other species. What makes them remarkable is their circumstances and their choices. He pulled up an image of Earth. They evolved on a death world that should have killed them. It almost did, many times. But instead of dying out, they adapted. Instead of being broken by their harsh world, they were shaped by it. They learned to be flexible, creative, persistent. But lots of species are persistent, a student argued. True, Zixthon agreed. But humans combined that persistence with something else. Collaboration. They learned, after much suffering, that cooperation beats competition. They learned to share knowledge freely. They learned that helping others helps themselves. And that combination, adaptability plus cooperation, makes them extraordinary. He showed footage from the past 6 months. Human engineers teaching retrofit techniques. Human soldiers helping defend alien colonies. Human scientists sharing research freely. Human diplomats working to reform the council into something more fair and equal. In 6 months, Zixthon said, humanity has reconnected isolated colonies using their warp technology. They've prevented 3 potential conflicts through mediation. They've shared agricultural techniques that have improved food production on 17 worlds, and they've asked for nothing in return except friendship. Why? Another student asked. What do they gain? A safer, more prosperous galaxy, Zixthon said. Which benefits everyone, including humans. They think long-term. They understand that investing in others is investing in their own future. That evening, Ben Hayes sat in a bar on Zentara Prime, a real bar now. Since humans had introduced the concept of social drinking spaces to the station, sharing drinks with diplomats from a dozen species who had become genuine friends over the past months. I have to ask, said one of them. A floating being named Zizix. Did you know how it would turn out? When we first gave you the mandates, did you know you'd change everything? Ben laughed and took a sip of his drink. Honestly, we had no idea. We just knew the tests were designed to keep us subordinate, and we thought that was both insulting and amusing. So we decided to show you what we could do and see what happened. Were you angry? Another asked. At being treated like children? A little, Ben admitted. But mostly, we found it funny. Because humans did the same thing to each other for thousands of years. We'd meet people who were different and assume they were inferior. We built entire systems based on those assumptions, and we were always wrong. He raised his glass. So, when the council did it to us, we recognized it. We understood it. And we chose to respond not with resentment, but with demonstration. We'd show you who we were through our actions. And you showed us that the scariest species in the galaxy is also the kindest, Zeke said quietly. Ben shook his head. We're not scary. We're just survivors. Earth was harsh, so we learned to be tough. But Earth was also beautiful, so we learned to be kind. Both are part of who we are. That's what makes you special. Another diplomat said. You're strong enough to dominate, but you choose to cooperate instead. Because cooperation works better, Ben said. Look at what we've accomplished together in just 6 months. Imagine what we could do in 6 years, or 60, or 600. The council made requests. We answered with amusement. And in doing so, we started something beautiful. He stood and looked around the bar, at the dozens of species mingling, laughing, sharing drinks and stories, humans and aliens working together, learning from each other, building friendships that cross the stars. The galaxy is changing, Ben said. Not because humans are superior, we're not, but because we offered an example. We showed that it's possible to be both strong and kind, both competitive and cooperative. We proved that sharing knowledge makes everyone richer, and that helping others helps ourselves. Outside the bar, through the massive windows of the station, Earth hung in the distance like a blue jewel against the black. Around it, ships from hundreds of species moved in friendly formation, upgraded with human technology, protected by joint defense systems, connected by bonds of genuine friendship and mutual respect. The Galactic Council had given humanity 3 challenges, expecting them to take decades. Humanity had completed them in weeks and, in the process, had challenged the Council right back, challenged them to be better, to be more equal, to truly become the community they claimed to be. And the Council, to their credit, had accepted that challenge. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, everyone agreed, was a very good thing. Far above the station, a newly retrofitted colony ship prepared to jump to warp, carrying a mixed crew of humans and Quilix heading to a distant star to establish a joint settlement. On the bridge, Captain Jake Morrison, promoted from the horizon to lead this new mission, watched the stars and smiled. "Ready for faster than light?" he asked his crew. A chorus of voices answered in a dozen languages, all meaning the same thing. "Ready." "Then let's go," Jake said. "Let's see what's out there." Together, the ship's drive engaged, folding space around it in a bubble of warped reality. In an instant, it was gone, racing toward the unknown at impossible speeds, carrying the hopes and dreams of multiple species working as one. Behind it, the galaxy hummed with new energy, new possibilities, new friendships. The Council's requests had been answered with amusement, yes, but also with generosity, courage, and an unshakable belief that everyone deserved a chance to thrive. Humanity had come to the stars not as conquerors, but as neighbors. And the galaxy, after thousands of years of careful hierarchies and slow progress, had finally learned what humans had discovered the hard way: that rising tides really do lift all boats, and that the best way to ensure your own survival is to help everyone else survive too. The age of isolation was ending. The age of cooperation was beginning. And it all started because one species looked at impossible challenges and responded with a smile, saying, "Let us show you what we can do."